Hello and welcome. This video is going to be in a series for students who want to plan, who want to do research in social sciences and just planning. It's for those who are just beginning to do the research. Uh, in subsequent videos, I will be talking on several topics on research methods, especially in social sciences. So to begin with, I will be talking on the meaning of scientific research, and then it will be followed by several other topics like identifying a research topic, thinking like a research, what are the terms that you need to be familiar with, how to do research literature review, and how to write a critical review of the literature. We will also talk about research design and different types of research design, and then about sample and sampling techniques, followed by the do's and don'ts in developing research questionnaire, and then about how to write a good report, including a thesis. And finally, I will be talking on the ethics in research and publications. So let's get started. First of all, we need to understand about the research or the meaning of scientific research. So what is that? We will discuss a number of issues or points. For example, what is science? And then what is the difference between science and common sense? And then the basic purpose of science. And then what is research? And then the definition of a scientific research. So these are some of the topics that we'll be touching upon. And to begin with, and then of course, steps in scientific research, and then types of research, and finally, fundamental points to consider before you begin your research. So these are the topics or points on which we will be having some deliberations. All right. First thing first, what is science? So as you can see, science is defined as any body of knowledge which is collected through scientific method. Very easy, very simple one. Any body of knowledge which is collected through scientific method. So the next question that comes in is, what is scientific method? What are the characteristics of a scientific method? Well, there could be few, many, but I think I will just focus on these four. The first characteristics of a scientific method is that it is very objective. It's not subjective. It's not, uh, somebody's philosophizing and, coming up with the idea. It is something which can be tested, which can be observed. Uh, Everybody can see how this study has been or this research has been conducted. So it's very objective. The second one is measurability. That is the whatever issues that is being examined in a scientific research that needs to be measured. Anything which cannot be measured is probably not possible to be examined through scientific method. Like like what is the impact of a star on humans' fate? We cannot measure those kind of things. So concepts like fate or the impact of supernatural things on us or human beings, not within the gambit of scientific research. The third characteristic is verifiability. That is, the research which has been conducted uh, could be verified by others in order to see whether the findings are correct or there were some errors. in the way the research has been conducted. So that is another very important characteristic. And finally, repeatability, that is any research which has been conducted scientifically could be repeated by anybody else who want to verify the findings. So these are the four very important characteristics of a scientific research, or what is the characteristics of a scientific method. Next, we like to know what's the difference between science and common sense. Okay, some people say that scientific research is nothing but a systematic and controlled extension of common sense. So we all have a lot of ideas about how and why things happen around ourselves, and we have ready-made explanations for that. For example, when you are in a traffic jam and your car is not moving on the road, you may have some common sense explanation of why there's a traffic jam. You may say that, oh, there may be some accident, down the road, and that's why this is happening. These are all, common sense explanations, which is not based upon any kind of systematic and controlled, knowledge of the issue. Okay, it is just a hunch. So the difference between science and common sense is that the science is any body of knowledge which is collected very systematically and in a very controlled environment, so that several factors are controlled, and only those factors which are of interest for the researcher is being seen or manipulated. Well, the next one is that common sense almost blindly accepts and loosely uses its theories and explanation. Just like what I said earlier, that we blindly, when we are in a traffic jam, we would blindly, say that, oh, this is because of this, or this is because of that. Several such kinds of, wild guesses or loose explanations are always we see people are giving to some of the very complex issues. For example, the recent one is this COVID epidemic. Different people have different, interpretation or explanations about how and why this pandemic has happened, where from this virus has come, and things like that. So these are all, common sense, but science did not do that. It has, the scientific knowledge has to come from a very systematic and, empirical examination of the issue. Science tests its hypothesis systematically and empirically. Non-science does it in a selective fashion, right? So the other one is that, as we say that in science, we have certain tentative answers to the issue, and then the researcher goes and try to verify those answers, which is called the hypothesis testing. Okay, non-science don't do that. They just pick and choose, the explanations which suit their own biases many times. Take the case of the journalist writing, articles in newspaper. I would say everybody, but there are journalists who are politically biased, so they would like to write an article based upon, selective evidence and hiding some of the evidence which contradicts their position. So that's non-science. Scientists are not interested in metaphysical explanation. They are concerned with issues that can be publicly observed and tested. So as I said earlier, the science is not interested in issues which cannot be observed, okay, or measured. All right. So that is another very important difference between science and common sense. So now what is the basic purpose of science? Well, the basic purpose of science is to understand and to predict and to control. Take the case of, again, this corona epidemic. Well, the scientists first of all would like to understand how come, this virus emerged, where from it came and how it came and how it was transmitted. All right. So that is one. And of course, the second one is that once we are able to understand, as a scientist, we are able to understand that this is the reason, this is the these are the conditions from where this virus has emerged. These are the sources of the virus. Well, we can predict that if this happens, then there will be again this kind of epidemics. And so naturally, the whole idea is to understand, predict, and then control those problems, those issues. All right, so that we have a better quality of life in this world. So next one is to understand what is research. All right. Many of us will always use the word research, but have you ever bothered to know why it is called research and not search? What's the reason that we call it research? Why not just search? Well, the reason is that the term research came from historical research. Right? Well, the historical research understands the past. Other form of research tries to understand the present and also predict the future. So the reason why historians call it research because they have to go back into the past and research the evidence in order to understand how and what things happened in the past. On the contrary, the scientific research, the researches that we do now, not the historical one, we try to understand the present as well as predict the future. So the researches that we do, especially in social sciences, we are all mostly concerned with what is happening around us in any context, whether in society or in school or in industry, and then try to predict what will happen if these things are present in that situation. So that is the meaning of research. Scientific research has no time frame. It believes that under similar circumstances, what has happened in the past will happen in the future as well. Okay? So now we come to the definition of scientific research. And as you can read here, it is a systematic, controlled, empirical, amoral, public, and critical investigation of natural phenomena. It is guided by theory and hypothesis about the presumed relations among such phenomena. Okay? So this definition is very comprehensive, and it gives you a good idea about several characteristics of scientific research. So it is systematic, it is controlled, it is empirical, it is amoral, that is science do not judge anything, good or bad, ethical or unethical, it is amoral, it is public, it is visible, and it's very critical in terms of asking questions. So the scientists do not blindly accept somebody's view because that this person is a very powerful person or this person is very high in authority and things like that. It will always question. And no finding in science is finite. There is always the possibility to refute those findings and to come up with better explanations. And scientific research is always guided by theory. In order to explain the results, you need to have some theoretical basis, and then you have to also, develop hypotheses about those relationships so that it can be tested through data. There are several steps that needs to be taken in a scientific research. The first one is, of course, the identification of a problem. So the first thing first is that as a research student, you have to always be very good in terms of identifying a good research topic. And we will discuss about this in the subsequent videos. Okay. So identification of a problem is the first step. Okay, the second one is literature review. Once you have identified your research topic, then you have to do a good comprehensive review of literature so that you get a good idea of the area in which you want to do the research and what other researchers have done in this topic, and what is the research gap that you would like to fulfill. So developing or doing a good literature review, and not only literature review but critically reviewing the literature is another very important step in the scientific research. The third one is that you need to develop certain hypotheses. That will come only when you have done a good literature review. The literature review will help you in identifying or formulating the research questions and developing some research hypotheses, which you need to test through the data that you're going to collect in your research. Now, before you start collecting the data, you need to also examine how best that data should be collected and what should be the method of collecting the data. So you need to do a good reasoning in that respect. And the reasoning would help you in developing your what's called as operational definitions of the concepts or constructs that you want to examine. Okay. I can give you an example like this, that a researcher wonders why people are often aggressive in situations where it is not quite appropriate. He notes that people become aggressive when they do not get what they want to get. After thinking and reading literature and careful observation, she or he formulates a hypothesis. The hypothesis is frustration leads to aggression. So this is the hypothesis that that person has developed on the basis of the reasoning. Now he can apply that reasoning. Now before that, we need to again define what do we mean by frustration and what do we mean by aggression. So this researcher defines aggression or frustration as prevention from reaching a goal, and aggression as behavior characterized by physical or verbal attack on other persons or objects. All right. So this is the operational definition of frustration and aggression, and this can be applied, for example, in the job context, where the researcher says that frustration due to promotion decision will cause employees aggression. So this is a hypothesis which is developed and has been sort of further sharpened through operational definition, which came from reasoning. Excuse me. Reasoning may even change the color of problem, may also sharpen the focus of the problem and make it more specific. So all these things go along, when you are in the process of research, there's need to do a lot of reasoning and see how best you can define the research problem and define your concepts or constructs, so that it helps you, in better examine the research issue. So as we discussed earlier, it is very important to operationally define those variables or concepts, or constructs that we are going to use in your research. The next one would be data collection. Okay. So once you have reasoned out that we are going to define our concepts or constructs like this, then things become easier that how we are going to measure those constructs or concepts, or variables. There could be several methods, and we will discuss about how best to collect the data in subsequent videos. And of course, once the data has been collected, right, it needs to be analyzed statistically using several statistical techniques, and to arrive at certain definite conclusion. And finally, you have to write a research report. So these are the steps, in doing a research. Let's now also discuss the differences between different types of research. Okay? The research can be of different type. It can be called exploratory or formal. It could be called experimental or ex post facto. It could be descriptive or causal. It could be cross-sectional or longitudinal. Case study or statistical study, a study conducted in the field setting or in the lab setting. Now, exploratory or formal research means that to what degree the research questions have been crystallized. In exploratory research, the research questions are not very well crystallized. It is still very vague kind of thing, Whereas in a formal research, everything has been crystallized, well defined, and well reasoned out. Measurement is ready. So the difference is between that. The exploratory research, the example could be literature review. When the researcher begins literature review and does some literature review, it comes up with some research questions, but those research questions are very tentative at that stage. All right, that's why it is called as exploratory research. When the researcher has a lot of power on creating an effects on the variables, that is, the research can manipulate variables in a very controlled environment, then that research is called experimental. Whereas when the researcher do not have any control on what has happened, because things have happened already, and the researcher has to go back and re-examine those things as an ex post facto, then of course in that research, the researcher do not have any control on the variables. It has already happened. The research can also be categorized in terms of purpose of the study. It could be descriptive or it could be causal. So in a descriptive research or study, generally the purpose is to describe the characteristics of the population or characteristics of population of sample on different parameters like percentage of managers versus non-managers in the factory in terms of the job satisfaction, all right? Or the difference between males and females, or boys and girls, or different race or religion. So basically the purpose is to describe, the distribution of population on several parameters. Whereas the causal research means that the purpose is to understand the cause and effect relations. What causes what? The type of research based upon the time dimensions could be cross-sectional or longitudinal. So in a cross-sectional study, the study data is collected in one time, whereas in longitudinal, the data is collected in several stages or several time frames. The next one is the difference in terms of the topical scope, the breadth and depth of the study. So the case study is very topical in the sense that it has a lot of depth in the study. The breadth is small, but the depth is large because the researcher goes deep into a few cases and examine that in detail. Whereas the statistical study has breadth because the findings from the statistical study can be generalized to the entire population. So the breadth of the statistical study is very large compared to the case study. And finally, the type of research can also be distinguished in terms of the research environment, whether the study has been conducted in the field setting or in the lab setting. So these are the broad categories of types of research. And finally, I have some tips for you in terms of how to sort of do your research, how to begin your research, all right, and how to complete your research. So the first thing first, you have to answer this question. Can you clearly and explicitly state the specific goals of your study? What exactly you want to find? What is your natural curiosity about this research or this study? So that will give you a lot of motivation, to do the research, because you would be doing something interesting. You will be able to answer some of the questions on which you are curious. The next one is, do these goals describe a study that is really worth doing? Again, very important questions. Always weigh whether the topic or research problem that you have identified is good enough. Maybe just for a PhD, if you're doing a PhD research. Have you made an effort to become thoroughly acquainted with the topic of the study? A sincere effort? Yeah, don't begin your research unless you are very confident about your knowledge about the topic. So you have to do a very good literature review, study a lot, and examine all the previous findings, researches related to the topic. If you have made such a sincere effort, then you are in a very good shape. Next is, are you familiar with the characteristics of people you will be surveying? Can you anticipate, for example, reasons why they may not be responsive? Yeah, this is also a very important question. You have to anticipate whether you will be able to get good quality of data or responses from your respondents or from your sample. Many times it's very difficult, okay, to get good support or cooperations from respondent if we're doing research, especially in social sciences. Or even in the government department, there may be information which are confidential, but you need that. So how are you going to get that? So these are the issues that need to be very well anticipated before research is finalized. And then, have you decided how you will select representative sample of the study? So sampling is again very important. The sampling should be representative so that the findings could be generalized if you're doing that kind of survey study or empirical study. So selecting a sample, the size of the sample as well as sampling technique need to be finalized. And then finally, have you decided the sample size that will provide the accuracy you need? Yeah, so again the sample size is very important. A smaller sample may not help in generalizing the finding. And in the PhD research, there are certain requirements of the sample size, which we would discuss those things in other presentations. So these are some of the issues that need to be thoroughly aware of for any researcher. So I think that's all for today, and I hope that these are some of the important informations that would help any beginner who is planning to do especially a PhD in social sciences. Thank you very much, and see you some other time.